The Dark Supernova, Armor King, a fan favorite among many in the Tekken franchise, flashy, gritty, and dirty. Welcome to a journey through one of Tekken's most complex and emotional storylines. This is a tale of Armor King, not one man, but two brothers united by a mask, bound by wrestling, and driven by honor, friendship, and ultimately, vengeance. The story of Armor King spans decades of Tekken history, touching every corner of the King of Iron Fist tournament saga. It's a narrative of rivalry turned friendship, mentorship born from loss, and a brother's unquenchable thirst for revenge. The early years, a wrestler's rise. Long before the first King of Iron Fist tournament, the original Armor King carved his name into the underground wrestling world. He was a talented luchador, traveling from ring to ring, seeking worthy opponents and building his reputation. His persona was that of a heel wrestler, the villain of the ring, complete with a menacing black jaguar mask and armor-clad attire. During his travels through the wrestling circuits, Armor King heard whispers of another masked wrestler, a man who also wore a jaguar mask and went by the title King. This king fought not for glory or fame, but to support an orphanage filled with children who had nowhere else to go. The coincidence of their similar names and masks went too great to ignore. Destiny brought these two warriors together in the ring. The match was fierce, competitive, and filled with the kind of raw energy that only true rivals could produce. But tragedy struck when King, still a rookie at the time, accidentally crushed one of Armor King's eyes during the bout. The injury was catastrophic. Armor King's vision blurred, blood stained his mask, and his wrestling career began to plummet. Where King's star rose with championship after championship, Armor King found only losses and fading glory. The red eye on his mask, a permanent reminder of the fateful day, became a symbol of both his pain and his rage. Armor King convinced himself that King had injured him deliberately, a cruel act meant to eliminate competition and claim dominance over the Jaguar Mask legacy. Resentment had festered. Revenge became his obsession. Tekken 1, from rivalry to respect. When the first King of Iron Fist tournament was announced by Heihachi Mishima, both men saw opportunity. King entered to win money for a struggling orphanage, while Armor King entered the ring to exact his revenge and reclaim his honor in the wrestling world. Fate brought both of them face to face once again in the tournament. The match was intense, personal, and filled with everything both men had to prove. But when the final bell rang, it was King who emerged victorious. King would go on to claim the third place in the tournament, securing enough prize money to build his orphanage. But something unexpected happened in defeat. As King extended his hand to help Armor King to his feet, offering forgiveness and friendship, Armor King realized the truth. The injury had been an accident. King was not his enemy, he was a kindred spirit, another man fighting for something greater than himself. The two buried their rivalry and became sparring partners, training together and forging a bond that would define both their lives. From that day forward, Armor King and King were not just rivals, they were brothers in spirit. Tekken 2, pulling King from the darkness. The years between the tournaments were not kind to King. Despite his success in the first tournament, the orphanage continued to struggle financially. Then, tragedy struck. A child under King's care died in an accident. The loss broke King completely. He abandoned his jaguar mask, stopped training, and descended into alcoholism. Drowning his guilt and grief in bottles, he vanished into the streets, a shell of a man he once was. Armor King, worried for his friend, set out to find him. He discovered King passed out in a dark alleyway, broken and defeated. In a moment that would define his friendship, Armor King threw King's jaguar mask at him and delivered a harsh truth. King needed to stop feeling sorry for himself and reclaim his purpose. With the second King of Iron Fist tournament on the horizon, Armor King convinced King to train again, to fight again, and to live again. The two entered the tournament together, both seeking redemption in their own ways. Though neither won the tournament, King emerged from it a changed man. He was sober, focused, and ready to fight for his orphanage once more. Armor King had saved his friend's life, but there was something Armor King kept hidden, even from King. A dark secret visible only in his Tekken 2 ending. Armor King was seen sitting in a locker room, struggling to stand with medical equipment monitoring his heart. X-rays and electrocardiogram readings revealed the truth. Armor King was developing a serious cardiovascular disease, a heart condition that would eventually steal his strength and shorten his life. Despite his illness, Armor King continued to fight, determined to stand by his friend's side. Tekken 3: The Death of King and the Rise of a Successor. Approximately 16 years had passed after this second tournament. King continued his work teaching the children at his orphanage self-defense techniques while competing in wrestling and martial arts tournaments to keep the orphanage funded. Then came Ogre, the god of fighting. This ancient being awakened from ruins in Mexico, drawn to the powerful martial artists whose abilities it sought to absorb. Ogre hunted down fighters across the world, and King was among its first victims. The first king was killed, his legacy seemingly had ended. Armor King was devastated. The loss of his closest friend, combined with his worsening heart condition, plunged him into a deep depression. His body could no longer sustain the rigors of professional fighting, and he knew his time was limited. But then the news had reached him. One of the children from King's orphanage had donned the jaguar mask and taken up the mantle of King. This young man, who'd grown up watching King as a hero, was determined to keep the orphanage alive. There was only one problem. King II was terrible at wrestling. He had learned only by watching, never by proper training, and he lost every competition he entered. Armor King, honouring his friend's memory and driven by a sense of duty, sought out King II and offered to train him. For the next 4 years, Armor King poured everything he had into his young successor, teaching him not just moves and techniques, but the philosophy that strength without purpose is meaningless. Armor King became like a foster father to King, shaping him into a worthy heir to the jaguar mask. When King II was ready, Armor King revealed the painful truth about the original King's death at the hands of Ogre. King II entered the third King of Iron Fist tournament, seeking revenge for his mentor's murder. Though Armor King didn't appear as a playable character in Tekken 3, his presence was felt in King's ending. Between Tekken 3 and Tekken 4, the tragedy in Arizona. The years that followed saw King II achieve some success. He won a world wrestling title and earned even enough money to sustain the orphanage. But Armor King's health continued to deteriorate. Despite his doctor's warnings not to drink due to his worsening heart condition, Armor King found himself in an Arizona bar one fateful day. The exact reasons for being there remains unclear. Perhaps he'd just come from a medical appointment, or perhaps the weight of illness had driven him to seek solace. That night, the bar erupted into chaos. Craig Marduk, a disgraced Vale Tudo fighter who had been expelled from professional fighting due to a scandal, was drunk, angry, and looking for a fight. He started a brawl with nearly everyone in the bar. Armor King, despite his weakened state, attempted to peacefully mediate and stop the violence, but Marduk, recognizing Armor King as a wrestler and filled with drunken rage, turned his fury on him. The fight was brutally one-sided. Armor King, already struggling with his heart condition and diminished strength, couldn't defend himself. During the battle, he suffered a heart attack, but Marduk didn't stop. He continued to kick Armor King's body even as he was dying, until he finally stopped moving. The original Armor King, mentor, friend, and legendary wrestler, was now dead. Marduk was arrested and convicted on second-degree manslaughter, receiving a 10-year prison sentence, but King II, and for Armor King's younger brother, no amount of justice could fill the void left by his death. Tekken 4: Seeds of Vengeance. King had learned from his mentor's murder and was consumed by rage. Armor King had been more than a teacher. He had been like a father figure, the man who gave him purpose and shaped him into who he was. King used his wrestling fame and prize money to bribe officials and secure Marduk's early release after only 2 years in prison. He then sent Marduk a plane ticket and a newspaper article about the 4th King of Iron Fist tournament. It was a trap. King II entered the tournament with one goal: to face Marduk and exact bloody revenge. The two met in the ring, and King II delivered a savage beating. He left Marduk hospitalized, broken, and barely alive. King II then visited Marduk's hospital room, fully intending to finish what he started, and murder the man who killed his mentor. But as King II stood over Marduk's hospital bed, he noticed a photograph on the bedside table, a picture of Marduk with his family. Something shifted in King II's heart. He saw that Marduk, despite his violence, was also human, with people who loved him. King II made a choice that day. He chose forgiveness over vengeance, redemption over revenge. He spared Marduk's life and walked away. But Armor King's story was far from over. Tekken 5, the Black Jaguar returns. Marduk, unable to accept his defeat, trained relentlessly after recovering from his injuries. In a shocking and disrespectful move, he obtained a Black Jaguar mask, the mask of Armor King, and wore it to challenge King II on television. It was an act of profound disrespect, a mockery of the man Marduk had killed. King II accepted the challenge, and the two fought again in the 5th King of Iron Fist tournament. This time, their match ended differently, and King II won. The two exchanged a handshake of mutual respect, and a friendship began to form between former enemies. But as Marduk returned to the tournament waiting room after the match, the lights suddenly went out. He was attacked viciously in the darkness. When the lights came back on, Marduk caught a glimpse of his attacker fleeing, a figure wearing a Black Jaguar mask, looking exactly like the man he had killed. The ghost of Armor King had returned, but it wasn't a ghost at all. What no one knew, not even King II, not Marduk, not even the wrestling world, was that Armor King had a younger brother. The two once had been a tag team, both wearing the same outfit and using the same name. Why the original Armor King kept this secret from King II still remains a secret till today. When Armor King I was murdered, his younger brother was consumed by grief and rage. Armor King II donned the mask and entered the 5th tournament with one mission: to kill Craig Marduk in the same brutal fashion that his brother had been killed. Armor King successfully defeated Marduk in the tournament, but during this time he also crossed paths with King, and when King tried to confront him believing he was seeing his mentor's ghost, Armor King responded not with words, but with violence. He gut-kicked King and delivered a devastating piledriver, leaving him dazed and confused. Why would Armor King II attack his brother's beloved student? The answer was bitter. Armor King held King II in disdain. King had befriended Marduk, the man who murdered Armor King, and formed a partnership with him. To Armor King II, this was an unforgivable betrayal of his brother's memory. After the 5th tournament had ended, Armor King's thirst for revenge was still not satisfied. He attacked Marduk again before disappearing into the shadows. In Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection, Armor King II made his formal debut as a playable character. He defeated Jinpachi Mishima and crossed paths with King II once more in the aftermath. Again, their encounter ended with Armor King II delivering brutal punishment to King II, reinforcing his message: forgiveness was weakness and Marduk deserved to suffer. Tekken 6, The Truth Revealed. The mystery of the returning Armor King haunted both King and Marduk. Determined to uncover the truth, the duo entered the 6th King of Iron Fist tournament, hoping the Phantom would reveal himself. King, while reflecting on his mentor, accidentally dropped a framed photograph of Armor King. The frame cracked, revealing a hidden image underneath, a photograph of the two Armor Kings standing side by side. The revelation was staggering. King II realized that the attacker wasn't a ghost, but Armor King's brother, carrying on the legacy and seeking revenge. King had rushed to the Armor King's grave only to find Marduk already there, digging up the coffin to confirm that Armor King was truly dead. When they opened the casket, they found the original Armor King's body intact. It was then that Armor King had appeared, confronting them both. Marduk demanded to know his identity, insisting he had killed Armor King with his own hands. Armor King II calmly explained that Armor King was not the one person, but a title shared by two brothers. The man Marduk had murdered was his older brother, Armor King I. Looking directly at Marduk, Armor King II delivered a chilling vow: "I will never forgive you for killing my brother." The three entered the 6th tournament, and attention reached the breaking point. Armor King II and Marduk fought in a savage, brutal match that left both fighters critically injured and unconscious. King II, standing between his friend and his mentor's brother, found himself in an impossible position. He cared for both men, but hatred between them threatened to destroy them all. Tekken 7, The Ultimatum. When Armor King II regained consciousness in the hospital, he found a letter on his bedside table. It was from Marduk, a challenge for one final match. The terms were absolute. If Marduk lost, he would retire from fighting forever. If Armor King II lost, he would have to be demasked, forced to give up the Armor King name and legacy. Armor King accepted without hesitation. But before the match could take place, the 7th King of Iron Fist tournament was suddenly cancelled when its organizer, Kazuya Mishima, had vanished. The world fell into chaos as G Corporation's reign of terror took hold. Armor King II was forced to spend his days consumed by anger, unsure whether he would get another opportunity for vengeance. The long-awaited showdown with Marduk remained unfinished. Then, one day, King appeared before him, but this time King wasn't there as a friend or mediator. He was there as a challenger. King, who had once walked the same path of vengeance and barely escaped it, now stood in Armor King's way. Armor King II didn't hate King. How could he? King was his brother's beloved student, the successor to everything Armor King had built. But this wasn't about hate. It was about a promise made over a grave, a vow to never forgive. And so Armor King made a fateful decision. He would use any means necessary to defeat King, even if it meant breaking the seal on a forbidden technique, an illegal move his elder brother had taught him in a secret but warned him never to use. The stage was set for a battle that would determine not just who was stronger, but whether vengeance or redemption would prevail. Tekken 8, the Forbidden Technique. As the 8th King of Iron Fist tournament approached, Armor King's quest for revenge reached its climax. Now wielding the Forbidden Technique passed down from his brother, a devastating illegal move that embodied everything dark and dangerous about his path, Armor King II prepared to face anyone who stood between him and Marduk. King remained determined to stop the cycle of hatred, knowing that if Armor King succeeded in his revenge, he would only lead to more suffering. The ultimate confrontation loomed, with King willing to sacrifice everything to save Armor King from the darkness. Armor King's character in Tekken 8 is defined by his singular focus, revenge against Marduk, no matter the cost. Despite King's effort, Armor King carries a cold determination, viewing King as an obstacle to be overcome rather than an ally to be cherished. The story of whether Armor King will finally achieve his revenge, or whether King will succeed in pulling him back from the abyss, remains to be seen. But the one thing is certain: the legacy of the Black Jaguar mask, born from friendship, forged in tragedy, and tempered by vengeance, continues to be one of Tekken's most compelling and emotional narratives.